I think our best hope is actually a major breakthrough by the Russians during the next 2 months prior to Trump's inauguration. See, I know that Trump wants to pull out of this war, but it would be hard for him to do so. Because again, look at Afghanistan. That was a public relations disaster for Biden, right? The way that ended, and Trump doesn't want to have anything similar happen to him in Ukraine. If he, like, for example, he says, not another penny to Ukraine, and then a few months later, Ukraine just truly collapses all along the front line, and it'll all be pinned on him. He says, Biden stood by Ukraine, but Trump abandoned it, and look what happened.
Right.
And it makes us look weak. We didn't keep our promise to our ally, and then now, Taiwan and whatever. How can they believe in us? These are the sort of things that they will say, and they are already saying. But if Russia manages to achieve a major breakthrough before Trump takes office, I think that there will be a lot less pressure on him. They won't be able to pin it all on him and say, look, the breakthrough, the collapse occurred while Biden was in charge. So clearly what he was doing did not work. So this is actually my biggest hope. There is a lot of talk, and there's reason to believe that the Russians may have a couple of major offensives planned. One in the south and one in the north. In the south, we're talking about Zaporozhye. Recently they've made some moves, and they apparently have 100,000 soldiers in reserve there that are not even on the battle lines, but they could be put in there at any time. And then up in the north, I think it would be around, not in Kursk, but it's the next oblast over, just north of Kiev. There's supposedly have 50,000 soldiers there, and they could begin an offensive quite easily. They've, recently, I think they've done some kind of reconnaissance in force, is what they call it. They've gone in and captured a few villages and held them for a while and came back. It seems like they may be getting ready for something. So, if these offenses begin in the near future, it probably, when the ground gets hard, so we're talking about with like a couple of weeks from now, and, they'll just put overwhelming, already, the Ukrainian defenses are crumbling. They just cannot withstand the pressure. This would increase the pressure significantly on the front line, and I think it really could cause a total collapse of Ukrainian defenses. And if that happens, it's just the sort of thing that cannot be hidden. The way that these Russian victories recently have just been hidden from the Western public. I know because I read that news all the time. You just wouldn't know that Russia is taking, town after town and is on the verge of capturing some major cities. You wouldn't know any of that. But if there's a total collapse and they just go marching towards the Dnieper, that cannot be hidden, and and if it happens before January 20th, I think that puts Trump in a much stronger position to just pull out of the war and say, look, it didn't work. All that $180 billion that we sent to Ukraine, look, that's what it got us. You want me to send another $180 billion? What's the point? Right. I think he'll really strengthen his position vis-a-vis the public and the media.
Do you think Putin is aware of that? Do you think the Kremlin
it's hard to believe that he's not.
Right.
So it may be, I'm guessing, again, he's got a lot more information than I do, but it just seems like there's a convergence of factors that would support, a major push by the Russians in the next few weeks. And it's, first of all, the change of administrations, but then also the winter. Actually, winter is a better time to launch an offensive. The ground is hard and, can support heavy armor. And then, they have been building up these forces, over a period of time. They have them. They have at least 150,000 well-trained troops, ready to, that they can deploy to the front lines at a moment's notice. So it just looks like, this may be the time.
Okay. And right now as well, Ukraine's energy infrastructure is badly crippled. Do you think that will have a big effect during this winter?
Yeah.
Ukraine gets very cold.
Right. Yeah. I think they're doing this for different reasons. One, of course, the factories the ones that still exist in Ukraine depend on that electricity, of course. The weapons factories, but then also more importantly is logistics. The trains, all the trains depend on electricity too. So that's how you move troops around and you send equipment to the front line. If you deprive the rail system of electricity, then that greatly impedes Ukrainian logistics. And then, maybe also just like turning the lights off in the cities, a place like Kharkov or something. It makes it easier for the Russians to take there's just very few civilians there. It will make it, I'm just guessing, but maybe that's another consideration of theirs.